What's up, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of the DirishFan Podcast. My name is Danny. I'm not an Irish fan. I am DirishFan. Thank you so much for tuning into the show. I really appreciate it. The show's growing incrementally, bit by bit, little by little. I'm getting encouragement. I'm getting all kinds of hate too, which is hilarious, considering that I talk about Notre Dame football and I'm just one guy. But it happens because it's the internet. The internet's crazy and weird and stupid. But hey, we can't live without it, right? And I certainly wouldn't be able to do this without the internet, so I'm grateful for that. I want to talk about a couple of things today. I want to talk about the Notre Dame schedule for 2026, go through a little bit of tidbits, talk about a couple of things. I also want to talk about the new playoff rules that the committee just voted on, maybe a week ago, 2 weeks ago. What that means for Notre Dame, what it means for the rest of college football. Before I get into those things, please do me a favor, like, share, comment, subscribe, click the notification bell so that every single time I post an episode, you can hear me bloviate, talk, complain, and overall give my opinion and perspective, 30,000-foot view perspective of the Notre Dame football program. I am a fan. That is it. I love Notre Dame, and I want other fans, other Notre Dame fans, and other college football fans to have more of an outlet to continue talking about the sport that we all love. So let's get into it real quick. First, the new playoff rules, the new format. I mean, I guess if you want to call it new, really what the votes were going to be expansion. Was it going to be 16 teams? Were they going to go to 24 teams? And they ultimately decided not to do that. And there's a lot of reasons why. And it was the Big Ten and the SEC that were holding up expansion. And I'm glad that they did. For a number of reasons. I mean, for one, you don't need 24 football teams competing for a national championship. We just saw in this previous playoff that James Madison and Tulane just get absolutely smoked, and not just them. I mean, you see the top ranked team of 2024 was Oregon. They got smoked by Ohio State in the Rose Bowl. So, there's just not a need for 24 football teams competing into the playoff, other than eyeballs and more games to watch and more money. And this is one of the decisions where they decided not to go in that direction. I'm not saying they won't in the future at some point in time. It's very possible, especially if college football goes the direction that I think it might go, which is an NFL style 2-conference. With multiple divisions in each conference, NFL style of league, and they're just gonna completely cut off the G5. Honestly, I don't even know why they keep the G5 in here anyway. I mean, I'm sorry, Troy, Louisiana Lafayette. I don't care about these other teams. Most college football fans don't either. Except when they're on their schedule, so we can all get a relaxing game of our teams blowing one of these teams out. So other than that, there's just no reason to keep them around. So that's just my opinion. I don't know. Maybe they will cut it loose at some point, cut the G5 loose at some point. Maybe they won't. I think they will, but we'll see. As of right now, they're squarely in. They're squarely in it. I think they did catch some flack. The CFP caught some flack from having 2 G5 teams in the top 12. And I might add, two G5 teams in the top 12 with a couple of other big-time power programs with cases to be made to be in the playoff. So that had a little bit something to do with it as well. But they're still keeping a chance for a G5 team to compete. So what are the new rules? There's a couple, but these are the ones of note. I'm not going to cover everything. That's not what I do. I'm just going to cover the big ones. So, first big one. If you are If you are a Power 4 conference champion, you get an automatic bid. So how that would affect last year's playoff, Duke would have been in the top 12. 7-5, Duke would have competed for a national championship. How do I feel about that? I mean, there's a lot of people who don't like it. There's a lot of people who love it. Who wouldn't want to see a Hoosiers moment? They're so rare. In fact, they make movies out of them. It's great when it happens, but it rarely happens. I remember rooting for Butler in the national in the basketball national championship, back-to-back years, I might add. against Duke, and I think the other one, I can't remember who the other team was that they lost to. But anyway, that was really cool. That was really cool, especially to see them the first year that they went lose on a buzzer, a missed half court buzzer beater. How amazing would that have been if he made that shot? Gordon Hayward, I believe was his name. Those moments are cool, and we love them. I'm from Indiana, so I love the movie Hoosiers. It's one of my favorite movies. I love Rudy. It's one of my favorite movies. Those underdog moments, we root for those as human beings. So it's cool to see that, but I don't know. It's Duke at least is in a Power Four conference. So if they would have competed for the national title, maybe even won, yeah, fine, great story. In the long run, in the grand scheme of things, I just don't see the appeal in continuously keeping around some of these smaller schools, and I don't think they're gonna in the long run. But again, asked and answered. Already talked about. So if you're a Power Four conference champion, you get an automatic bid. I on its face, I like this. I like this because it stops the griping. All the conference champions now have representation. All the big conferences now have representation. One of the big outlying stories was the war that the ACC commissioner went on against Notre Dame and this offseason. And perhaps rightfully so. I'm on record saying that I'm a big believer in head-to-head. I'm also on record saying that head-to-head hasn't been that big of a deal until this year, when Notre Dame was in the crosshairs. But having that said, I'm a big believer in head-to-head. We lost those games against Texas A&M and Miami. We should have. We didn't. And we lost them, so we didn't deserve to be in the playoff. That's as simple as that. Simple as that. We don't have to get any more tinfoil hatty than that. Believe me, I love putting on that tinfoil hat sometimes, and I will throughout the course of this podcast. But for the sake of argument, for the sake of this podcast right now, I'm just going to say that we were left out because we didn't get stuff done on the field. I've already talked about what they should have done beforehand. We won't get back into that. But nevertheless, hopefully going forward, you will not see conference commissioners go on evangelical campaigns against Notre Dame to make sure that they're held out. We'll see. So Power Four conference champions, automatic bids. The highest ranked, now here's the G5. The highest ranked G5 team will also get an automatic bid. It does not have to be a conference champion. It's kind of a reverse of the Power Four. If you're a Power Four conference champion, in. If you're a G5 team, you just have to be the highest ranked G5 team, and you are in. So what that does is it bumps only one Power Four at-large bid. That's what that's going to do. This previous year, 2 Power Four teams were bumped for 2 G5 teams. This rule specifically is going to get rid of that going forward. Only one G5 team will now get an automatic bid, and they do not have to win a conference champion to do it. This is one of the most frustrating things about our sport is this power play, this conferences are everything, and Notre Dame has to join a conference and conference champions and the schedules and head-to-head and all this. But, G5, they don't have to be a conference champion. We'll let them in as long as they're the highest ranked team, just to give them representation. They don't match. Those arguments don't match. You can be for one or the other. I mean, you can even be for both if you just want that Hoosiers moment that I was talking about before for a G5 team. Okay, that's fine. But your argument it can't stand on its own merit because it doesn't make any sense. It has to make sense in order for it to be able to stand, and it doesn't make any sense to say both of those things, not tongue in cheek. So, do I love it or hate it? I don't. Honestly, I don't care. I don't believe I'm ever going to. I'm trying to get Notre Dame to win a national title in my lifetime, let alone see a G5 team win a national title in my lifetime. Having that said, the next year in 2026, the defending national champions will be Indiana University. So parity amongst college football has greatly increased in the last couple of years. You are no longer seeing the power 2020 Bamas, 2018 Clemsons, 2021 Georgias of the world, and only those teams win national championships. So there's parity. That's good. That's bad. How that plays forward, we're gonna have to just wait and see. But there is parity. Who knows? We'll see. I don't know what these G5 teams do, and what this rule means. I guess the best thing you could say about this rule is that, again, only one team's going to get bumped instead of two. So that's the next one. And now we get to Notre Dame's rule. And there's a special built-in rule, and this has caused a lot of people to be upset about Notre Dame and Notre Dame fans and Notre Dame University. But Notre Dame will get an automatic bid if they are in the top 12. So this now, not only will a G5, only one team will be bumped by a G5 team, but all Notre Dame has to do is be in the top 12 to get an automatic bid. So this last season, we would have gotten an automatic bid into the playoff, and who knows, maybe even one, because we were the hottest team in the country. Those are the big ones. Those are the highlights. I heard, what was the podcast name? I can't think of it off the top of my head. Oh, 3 Tech on YouTube. It was fairly entertaining to listen. I don't usually listen to other sports podcasts, especially the bigger ones, the ESPNs of the world. I don't listen to those podcasts. I don't have enough time. Two, I just don't care what they say anymore. When I want to know something about Notre Dame football, I'll go to a Notre Dame site, and you should too. But every once in a while, something will pop into my feed. I'll be in the car driving or something, and I'll get something that just automatically play. And hey, it was the 3 Tech podcast, and one of the guys on that 3 Tech podcast said he didn't like this rule because now it beauty pageants. These are his specific words. It beauty pageants Notre Dame into the CFP, and he doesn't like these beauty pageanting things happening. And what Notre Dame now has to do is win every game essentially by 50 points. There's a couple of things that are really annoying about that statement. First of all, Notre Dame has always had to do that. Always. And I'm going to get to a bigger point on scheduling when I talk about the Notre Dame schedule in terms of what Notre Dame has to do to win national championships going forward, especially as an independent. But they've always had to do that. And not just Notre Dame. Every single team that's ever won a national championship at some point in time has always had to beauty pageant themselves in to the playoff, to the BCS, or the AP poll, coaches poll era. Every single team. That's what college football is. As long as a group of people get in a room and decide who the best teams are and who gets to compete for national championships, that is called perception. And college football always has been and always will be a game of perception. Always. Always. It always has been that way. So that's a weird complaint considering whoever that guy roots for is going to be rooting for his team to win by as much as possible to be able to beauty pageant themselves into an at-large bid in the college football playoff. So there. I mean, that's it. Like, what does that mean for Notre Dame? Absolutely nothing. They have to do what they've always had to do. The only caveat being is I don't trust the CFP going forward. I've said this before. I just don't trust them. Who's to stop them from ranking Notre Dame 5th all year, and then in the last CFP ranking, when it really matters, putting them 13th, for whatever reason. And who cares what the reason is? It's just they find a reason. This year it happened to be head-to-head. I will say, I don't think that they will do that. I don't know. I don't think that they will, because that would then just completely expose them. And as being a complete, just a fraud. They might as well, I've said it before, it needs to be called the College Football Invitational, not the College Football Playoff, because it's not a true playoff. As long as you get G5 teams, they don't have to win conferences, just being the highest ranked G5 team, get into the playoff, that's not a qualification. That's not it's not an on-field qualification, which is that's what we're trying to get to. That's what I think a lot of fans are trying to say through all of this bloviation, through all of these talks, through all these meetings, through all these votings on whatevers. I think college football fans are trying to say is, yes, we want the best teams competing for a championship, but we want that competition level to be acquired on the field. And eventually that's going to break, which is why I think they're going to get rid of the G5, because they don't play anybody of note. They just don't. And when they do, they get smoked. At best, they can beat another G5 school that's somewhere in the top 25, like a Tulane or James Madison, or they can play another Power 4 school that is really good, and they play them tough, but they still lose. At best, they'll win very few of those games. Very, very few of them. But you know, this is the world we live in. You know, it's just the world we live in. It's an invitational. It's not a playoff. It is an invitational. So those are the rules. We'll see, good or bad, going forward. I've already given my opinion on how I feel about all of them. Notre Dame's going to have to do what they have to do every single year. Win your football games, okay? Especially at home. But I'm going to move on to Notre Dame's football schedule for next year. And how this pertains to the college football playoff, the playoff selection committee, and its invitational that they give every single year. But we're going to start off. Here we go. Sunday, September 6th, Wisconsin at Lambeau Field. Curly Lambeau. Hey, Notre Dame College Football Hall of Famer and NFL Football Hall of Famer as well. One of the 7 that we have from Notre Dame. Not a true road game, but on the road nonetheless. Last time I checked, Green Bay, Wisconsin was in the state of Wisconsin, and it's about 30 half an hour to an hour away from Madison. So don't quote me on that. I don't know, but it's close, and they should come out for their team. Notre Dame will as well. I think they will sell an equal amount of tickets. I don't think that this is going to be an overwhelmingly red stadium. At least I hope it's not. I think I don't know. Will I go? I don't know. I'll have to talk to the boss about that one. Wisconsin is not good. Still coached by Luke Fickell. They're not a good program. They're in the doldrums. This win though would definitely boost Wisconsin big time. This is going to be very important. It's the first game of the year. We all know how tricky those are in Notre Dame land. Everyone is very much aware of the first game of the year a curse. Unfortunately, we just don't win very many of them because we have to play them on the road all the time, usually against a top 5 team or a top 10 team. This year, we finally get a game where it's they're not a good team. We should win this game going away. We should win this game by at least 2 touchdowns, if not more. I think the line will be set. I have no idea what it's set right now, but I think it will be set at 14. That's what I think. But we'll see. That should be an easy win. Next game, Rice at home. This is really this is the biggest thing I have to say about 2026 schedule. At the beginning of the year last year, everyone gives their lists. Who's going to be All-American? Who's going to be top draft pick at the end of the year? Everyone has their lists. Yada yada yada. My list was a list of can'ts. This is what you can't do. This is what can't happen. This is what you can't let happen. And one of those things was you cannot lose at home again. You cannot lose at home. And what happened? We lost at home to Texas A&M. We win that game. We probably go to the playoff. Maybe we're singing the fight song in the alma mater after a national championship victory this year. Who knows? If we one game at home against Texas A&M, maybe we win that game. I think a lot of college football would have forgiven us by losing by 3 at Miami in the first game of the year. I can forgive Notre Dame that. I cannot for losing at home. Home needs to be your stalwart. You have to win at home. You have to. Why am I giving this big speech before a Rice game? Well, we've seen them lose to lesser opponents. We've seen them lose to Northern Illinois. We have also seen them lose to Marshall. So do I think that's going to happen? No, I don't. Of course I don't. This should be a hopefully, if Marcus Freeman knows what's good for him, His mantra of "leave no doubt." This should be. If you can score 100 points in this game, we should. Let's just say that. I mean, I want to say that about every single game going forward, but this is one of those where you actually probably could. So, Rice is awful. They're terrible. It's at home. Win that game. Michigan State at home. Is this tricky? No, it's not. It's not tricky. They're not there. It's another program that is just in the doldrums, especially considering what it used to be under the D'Antonio years. Guy actually got him to a playoff one year. They were tough, gritty. It was a strong defensive line, strong offensive line, strong running games with quarterbacks that could do solid game managements. And they're nowhere near that. Nowhere. Very akin to Stanford, which we'll get to in just a second. But that used to be a tough team. Now they're not. They're not at all. That's again at home. Should be at least a three touchdown win. Purdue at Purdue. At Purdue, yeah, the Boilermakers of West Lafayette. Yeah, another smoke show that we should actually absolutely dominate over in West Lafayette. Hey, they got a really good bar, Harry's Chocolate Shop. That's a cool bar though. Next game at North Carolina, and the Fighting Bill Belichick's and 23-year-old girlfriends. Stanford at home. Another team, what they were in the Harbaugh era and the Shaw era, they're just a strong offensive line, defensive line, linebackers that would stick their nose in running backs' faces, quarterbacks that could game manage, just completely gone. And is that good or bad? Well, it doesn't help Notre Dame's strength of schedule, which I will talk about in just a second. But again, another very winnable game. And then the next game. This is the biggest game of the year. It's at BYU. By far and away, the biggest game of the year. We have to win this game. We have to. We have to. There's no universe in which I want to live where we lose USC. Okay? We lose that for whatever reasons. You can blame it on USC. I don't care. It's Notre Dame's fault, USC's fault. Who cares? It's gone. It's gone. And it's not coming back anytime soon. We replace them with a BYU program who is probably a better football program right now. That's arguable, of course. But by and large, at least in rankings, they are the better football program and have been for about 5 years. So that's good for our strength of schedule, but there's no universe in which I want to live where we get them on the schedule after losing USC and then lose to them. I don't even want to think about that. It's just this same thing as I don't even want to think about losing Northern Illinois. But hey, that happened. Then we get an off week. Week 8 is our first and only bye week. So we got to play 7 games in a row. 4 of them on the road. 3 of them are true road games. So those first 7 games, we only get 3 home games in those first 7 games. That's going to be tough. That's going to be difficult. But we have a reward at the end of that. We beat BYU. We are on the fast track of going undefeated, and which, again, I'll get to in just a second. Then we come back at Navy. It's played in Foxborough, so again, a neutral site, but on the road against Navy. We've handled Navy pretty good. Marcus Freeman, no matter how good or bad Navy is, in his career has so far handled Navy, and that's just what you have to do. I've given my opinion on playing the Naval Academy plenty of times, and maybe we can visit that again in the future, but we're going to play them every year, and because we do, we have to beat them every year and beat the crap out of them every year. That's the only acceptable outcome. A close win is a loss, and a loss is unacceptable, so beat Navy. Your next cannot let happen, must win. Miami at home. You have to win this game. You have to. There's no universe in which I want to live where we have lost to Miami back-to-back years, one on the road and one at home. They're not that good of a program to be able to do that to us. It's another, and by the way, it's at home, which I've talked about, and I'll continue talking about. Defend your house. Can't lose that game. I'll spare you the details, but the rest, BC, SMU, and Syracuse, all very winnable games. The only one there that's even remotely tough is SMU when we got them at home. There is a world in where they could be ranked in the top 25, somewhere in the top 25 by the end of the year when we play them. There's also a year where they're like 500 and they're just kind of average. Either way, that'll be a tough out. I don't think that's going to be a blowout. Anything could happen, I guess. But those other two schools, BC and Syracuse, we're continuously smashing every year, and we need to. Playing at Syracuse, it's the end of the year, so who knows how good or bad they're going to be. It was a very similar thing that we had playing them this year at home. We first time in my lifetime I've seen Notre Dame score 70 points in a game, and they're not a good football team. They had a series of bad luck with injuries this year. I don't know. Will the injury thing happen at the end of the year? Who knows? But what is definitely going to happen is they're not built to be a 9-2 by this time. 9-2, 10-1 football team. They're just not built to be that. So, ending the season very winnable. A couple of things about this schedule. First, it's not a juggernaut by any stretch of the imagination. As a matter of fact, in everyone's preseason top 25, way too early top 25s, Notre Dame has been the only one to take a shot at their schedule and at least the strength of schedule, which blows me away. But at the same time, it doesn't. I mean, I just looked at Miami's schedule. It's probably worse, but they play in the ACC. So hey, an ACC schedule. Whoa, their toughest game is at Clemson, who went 7-5 last year. That's their toughest game. Other than that, they play Duke at home. That's it. They play Florida State, which is an awful football program, and you see that Mike Norvell on his way out after next year, they're going to give him one more chance, and that works out. That always works out. Hey, you got one more chance to get to the platinum. No, that's not going to happen. He's going to get fired. Everybody knows it. Their first game that they drop, they're going to be done. Everyone's going to be done. They don't care about that football program, at least the players on that team. So, and they don't care about Mike Norvell. I can tell you that. So, Miami's schedule is not good. I haven't heard a thing about their schedule, their strength of schedule. But you hear Notre Dame's strength of schedule. Oh, this is terrible. They can't drop a single game. These arguments, man, it's just so funny. Where college football goes, the ebbs and flows, it's hilarious. But, again, yeah, it's not a juggernaut. It's not the worst schedule in the world either. Let me talk a little bit about that. Schedules can be deceiving because most of the time people take a glance at it and they go, oh, you only play 2 ranked teams. What a terrible schedule. Schedules are built in a certain way to be advantageous to most teams. You play most of your games at home. You start the game on a road against a cupcake. You end it on the road, or start the game at home against a cupcake. You end it at home against a cupcake or a rival or whatever. Those kinds of things. So at first glance, it can be kind of deceiving, but when you look into it, it's a little bit more difficult than people think. So we start the season and end the season on the road again. This is something that I have no idea why the Notre Dame Athletic Administration loves doing this. I don't get it. This is one of those things where I've talked about in previous episodes about Notre Dame using and wielding their independence effectively and for their school. This is one of those things I don't understand. This is one of those things that's like, we're going to self-immolate and show everybody that we are going to put on a very tough schedule and almost apologize for being independent. I hate this. Why do we do this? This drives me nuts. I don't get it. We are starting the season on the road and ending it on the road. No other college football program does that to themselves. Nobody does that. No one. Especially the top programs. And if they do it, they'll do it sparingly. Every other 4 or 5 years or something like that. We do it every single year. And most of the time, it's against a ranked team. The last two years in a row, 2020, let's see, 2023, no, sorry. 2024, we started at Texas A&M. And then we ended at USC. And then 2025, we started at Miami. And yeah, we ended at Stanford, but most of the time in the previous iterations of that rivalry, it's been a really hard game. So this is just one of those things. It's self-immolating. We're not using our independence wisely. We're not using it effectively. So it blows my mind. But anyway, we end the season and start the season away. We got 7 games in a row before, I've already said this, we got 7 games in a row before our first bye game, or our first bye week. And only 3 out of those 4 are at home. That's tough. That's hard. Playing on the road for 18 to 22-year-old kids who also have to go to school at Notre Dame is a hard thing. And you can definitely see a world in where you get to that BYU game at BYU, I might add, a couple, 1,500 miles away, and those kids are really tired and they're ready for a break. And you're putting yourself in a situation where you're just setting yourself up for failure. I just don't understand why we do that. But anyway, that's tough as well. Our November schedule is favorable. But here's the problem. We don't have a November problem. We have a September problem. We've had in the Marcus Freeman era. We keep losing at home in September, usually against unbelievably inferior opponents. So if you can take care of September, the rest of the schedule works out pretty favorably. We got Miami at home, BC at home, SMU at home, and then we ended the year at Syracuse. Of not just a winnable game, they're terrible. So our November schedule sets up. However, it doesn't leave any room for error. If we lose in September or we lose to BYU, there's no other team other than Miami on that schedule to give us any kind of street cred for the CFP. So we have to take care of September and October. But if we do, the rest of the year is pretty favorable. The only true road games we have 2 games that are at neutral sites, Lambeau Field and Foxborough. We've got 4 true road games. Purdue, North Carolina, BYU, and Cuse. By far and away the hardest game in that list of games is BYU, by far. So in the long run, what does this mean in the grand scheme of things? I kind of hinted to it when I was talking about the CFP rule changes, and everybody bloviating about Notre Dame's schedule. Look, Notre Dame in every single era, the AP coaches era, the BCS era, and now the College Football Playoff Committee era, has always had to go undefeated or lose one game to get to a playoff or win a national title. I understand that this is a new era in which a 2-loss team could have a fast track or should have a fast track to the national championship, i.e. Ohio State in 2024. They lose 2 games. They don't go to their conference title game. They don't win their conference championship, but they still win a national championship. And we should be able to live in that era. And we should be able to be effective in living in that era. But we aren't. We just aren't. So what is new? Absolutely nothing for Notre Dame. Absolutely nothing has changed. Nothing has changed. We have to win on the field to be able to compete for a college football playoff spot and a national title. Shocker, everybody. Woo! This is crazy how much talking is done about Notre Dame's schedule, strength of schedule. We've always had to do this. Always. And we always will. So I don't see this as any different. A lot of people are like, man, if we lose 2 games, we might not make the playoff. Well, no crap. They just did it to us. They just did it to us. So yeah, we lose 2 games. That's it. We're done. Especially with this playoff, especially with this schedule. There's no room for error. I would make a strong argument also that because they throw in that little rule of, hey, if we make the top 12, that's all you got to do. Automatic bid, top 12. I guarantee you, if we lose 1 game, they're gonna do whatever they can, depending on who it is and where it is and how it goes down. They're gonna do whatever they can to make sure they make us 13th. I guarantee it. Because I've already talked about this. Is already asked and answered. I believe that this past CFP committee rankings and what they did to us, my opinions notwithstanding about why we were held out, we should have been held out. Don't get me wrong. So I don't I'm not trying to be too tinfoil hatty here. But I firmly believe one of the reasons why they did what they did is to force us into a conference. They want Notre Dame to be in a conference. Period. End of discussion. That's absolutely true. So they're gonna keep looking for these reasons. We lose one game, and I believe that it's especially considering how how the playoff turns out this year. There's happened to be a couple more undefeated teams, a couple more one-loss teams than there were two-loss teams going into the CFP committee final ranking, and that's another one of the reasons why we were held out. Is just this was one of those weird years where there was a lot of really good teams, or a lot of teams with schedules that were favorable to themselves. Ironically enough, why Notre Dame doesn't do that, I don't know. But anyway, so again, win your games. Just win your game. But go on. This is a schedule every single year when we're doing our predictions, and everyone thinks they're gonna what Notre Dame's gonna do. They're gonna go 10-2. They're gonna 11-1. They're gonna go 9-3. They're gonna go undefeated. This is one of those schedules that I look at and I go, this is not only is this pretty favorable. I've already talked about the bad things, but this is a pretty favorable schedule. I don't care how strong it is. Just win it. Just go 12-0. They will keeping out a 12-0 Notre Dame football team, putting them at 13th because their strength of schedule. There better be 12 undefeated there better be 12 undefeated college football teams ranked ahead of them to put them at 13th. In my opinion, could they do it? Sure. Do I trust them? No, but I don't think they will. Win all your games and leave no doubt, and I think we'll be in the playoff. This schedule is very, very winnable. It's set up pretty favorable, especially at the end of the year. We better go undefeated. This is also one of those years. I'm going to talk about this more in podcasts going forward. This is one of those years where it feels it has a lot of, if not now, when vibes. There's a couple of times I felt like this in the past. 2009 was one of them. Charlie Weiss's last year, when we had Jimmy Clausen coming back. We had Everett Golson. We had Jimmy Clausen. We had Golden Tate. We had Michael Floyd. Very, very talented, underrated team, actually. But Charlie Weiss had absolutely no idea how to coach defense. So, what happened ended up happening. We went 500 and Charlie Weiss got fired. But I remember going into that season thinking very much, if it's not done now, then our program has to be and should be gutted and completely built back brick by brick. That is what happened. But I felt that before the start of the season. I felt it. Another season. It wasn't 2012. It was actually 2015. 2012 kind of came out of nowhere. You had a lot of things kind of bounce Notre Dame's way. They had a really good defense. They had one of the best players in the entire country, Manny Te'o. They had a very talented up-and-coming quarterback. That kind of came out of nowhere. The team that should have competed for a BCS national championship, if not won it, was 2015. That team was loaded. A very underrated team in the grand scheme of things that a lot of people don't talk about. A lot of people talk, especially in that era, talked about all the NFL talent going to Alabama and Georgia and Clemson and most of the guys from those teams were going. That's who the NFL was drafting. That team had a lot of players drafted on it, specifically on the offensive and defensive side of the defensive line and offensive line. That should have been a very highly competitive team, and we lose. We did have some bad luck. Malik Zaire got hurt, but I think DeShone Kizer played well enough to be able to continue competing. So my point being there is that was that going into that season, I remember saying, if Brian Kelly doesn't do it now, he never will. I remember feeling that way in the very, very same way that I felt in 2009. 2009 was a little different because it was a complete and total program revamp, where 2015 was more of an indictment on Brian Kelly as it was to Notre Dame. And I just remember those vibes. I just remember feeling that. And hey, not only did he lose, he went into the next season even worse. And I don't want to reopen that Band-Aid. I have not felt that way until now. The last time I remember feeling anything close to this was going into the Ohio State game in 2023. I remember just willing that game, like a victory in that game. I remember the fans, everyone that was there wanted that win so bad, and we felt those now or never vibes, and we lost. This season feels the exact same way. Now or never. This is, especially if you want to win a natty as an independent, now is our time. Now. I feel like William Wallace in Braveheart. If we join, we can win. If we win, we'll have something we'll never had. A country of our own. One of my favorite movies. If we dominate the schedule, we show the rest of the college football world we are back. We are ready to compete. This is not a one-off. The program is here to stay. A good way of doing that is winning the natty. And it's set up for it. Now or never. Do or die. Leave no doubt. That's where I'm going to end this podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. Before I go, please, again, like, share, comment, subscribe, and click the notification bell so that every single time I post an episode, you know that your boy's about to talk Notre Dame football. I love you. God bless you. Go Irish.